story. My Uncle Jimmy never talked about this time in Vietnam. When I was a kid, I never pushed the issue with him. Now fast forward many years, and I'd served my time in the Navy, so I had a little in common with him. We both wore the uniform. We were sitting on the deck swapping stories, and all of a sudden he told me how he was awarded the Silver Star the Silver Star. He was in Cambodia on a classified mission. As many folks my age know, we were never supposed to be there to begin with. Now, he was a platoon sergeant, and he and his men were caught in a firefight. He never told me all the details, but that isn't important to the story. Now, if memory serves correctly, 5 of his men were wounded in varying degrees. And while in the process of getting them out, he himself was wounded. Now, I always gave him a hard time about being hit in the back, but I really didn't know what had happened. And just as an aside, his Purple Heart has 2 clusters. He doesn't have a citation to go with this medal because he never was there. Now, what does that have to do with today's scripture? Well, I wanted to show how it relates to the military. The old woman gave her copper coins, gave all that she could, unlike the wealthy gentleman who gave to be seen and praised for the giving. Also in the Old Testament lesson, the woman made her loaves with what she thought would be the last bit of her food. She had for her and her son. Now, it wouldn't be much of a stretch to compare this to the sacrifice in the military. Nobody who serves, then sacrifices, does so with the expectation of reward. You put on your uniform and you go about your job. However, sacrifices large and small are made every day. And we have all heard or read John 3:16. God sent his son to us. He sacrificed for our sin. Jesus made the ultimate sacrifice for us. He went to the cross knowing this, but not for his glory or reward. It was for us and for our sins alone. Now, do I think for a minute that a military man's sacrifices are on the same level as this? Of course not. But, just as in the scripture, some gave a little and some gave all. The woman in the Old Testament lesson was told by Elijah that the food would not run out. And she didn't know for sure that this was true, so she took it on faith. She gave what she had, not expecting anything in return but a meal. The woman who gave her copper coins, knowing this was all she had, and she sacrificed in that regard. When a man steps in front of a bullet or carries a wounded man out of the jungle, he expects nothing. Except to separate the pages. Sorry. Or as he lays in a foxhole down in the sand or in his rack on the ship, it is a sacrifice. The military man or woman gives up family. She gives up comfort. They suffer pain. And I can tell you from experience that your rack is a very lonely place at night when you're separated from your loved ones. Again, the sacrifice is not given with reward or recognition in mind. When Christ went to the cross, he did so in full knowledge of what was to happen to him. All throughout the gospel, he tells what is about to happen. But not once did he say, hey, look at me and see what I'm about to do. I doubt that a thought went through his head as to what everyone would think about him down through history. Now, Jesus tells us that the old woman gave selflessly without thought of reward. And sacrifice doesn't demand reward or acknowledgement for the act. Now, what do we take away from this? How do we relate this lesson in our daily lives? Well, first, we must decide what sacrifice is to us. We need to look beyond our checkbooks. Take a look at the wealthy man who gave just a little bit of what they had to great fanfare. They didn't sacrifice anything. But if they gave up a few minutes a day to their families instead of the business, then they may have sacrificed a little earning a little more money. But then they gain time with their loved ones that they might not have ever had. Time never comes back around again. So, and I think we all can relate. Secondly, we have to resist the urge to say, it's too hard. It's always easier to write a check and say, hey, that's enough. But it's never too hard to sell cookies at the fundraising bake sale. It's never too hard to spend a couple of days a week coaching the Special Olympic softball team. It's never too hard to give up a few minutes a day to sit down with your children and read a story. Sacrifice does not mean you have to raise your right hand and swear to defend the Constitution and obey the orders given by your superiors. Sacrifice doesn't mean you must walk a post at midnight securing the perimeter. Sacrifice does not even mean falling on a hand grenade to save your buddies. In the dictionary, sacrifice is defined as to surrender or to give up, to prevent injury or disadvantage for the sake of someone else. But what that means to us is that we must give of ourselves things that may hurt us, but is given freely. When we give the offering prayer, it doesn't say that we give money and that's it. It says we offer ourselves, our time, and our possession. These things are not monetary and represent a great sacrifice to many individuals. I can relate to that, some of that, in my role as a sailor on a submarine. Although I didn't think of it as making a sacrifice, in a way I did sacrifice many things. I was cut off from things outside the confines of my submarine. I was away from my loved ones while deployed. I even missed the birth of my first son. And I never once, while I was out there, thought I was giving anything. I just did my job. And in a way, we can say that Christ was doing his job. It wasn't sacrifice in the woman's mind giving the copper coins. And it wasn't sacrifice to the woman feeding Elijah. Nothing they did was for reward or recognition. They do their job and hopefully go home at the end of the tour. God gave us Christ out of love for us. I pray that we see each other at the end of this tour. Amen.